Okay, now let's look at forecast. Okay, I'm going to go back here to sheet 4, okay, where we have continuous data, and let's duplicate that. Okay. Let's move that over here. So that's sheet 5 and then sheet 6. Okay. So now when we bring in forecast, okay, so here forecast is active. Okay. But if you go back here, forecast is dimmed. Okay. For forecast to work, you must have a continuous series of data, a time series data, not buckets of data, but a time series. Then only your forecast will work. Okay. So if the dates are blue pill, no forecast. Okay. If it is green pill, then you have forecast, and you have to, all you have to do is just drop in there, and it will automatically produce a forecast. Okay. So it's going to try several different models. Okay. And it also depends upon the granularity of the visualization. Right now, the visualization is at the level of week, right? So it's a weekly sales that is plotted. So the data weekly sales will be analyzed, and you will have forecast for on a weekly basis going forward. Yeah. Now, if you change that to let's include a couple of years. Okay. Now, if you change that to say quarterly, then you will have quarterly forecast. Okay. If you change that to monthly, so you will have monthly forecast. In each of these cases, okay, here it is. There is a difference. Okay, there is a downward trend here. Okay, in the case of monthly or in the case of weekly, the forecast is the same for the entire future period for which the forecast is made. Okay, so let's look at some of these options. Okay, so if you go and right click. Okay, and then highlight forecast. Okay, so it's already showing you forecast. Show forecast is checked, and then you have two more options: forecast options and describe forecast. Okay, like if you go to describe forecast, it will just tell you what is being used for forecast. So here it tells you what kind of time series we have. So it's weekly ship date. So that is your time series, and sum of sales within those weeks is what is being forecasted. So the forecast forward, it is taking 14 weeks. It's forecasting 14 weeks into the future. Okay, and the forecast is based on this data, December 29, 2013. So that's your first week in 2014. Okay, we added 2014 and 2015. Remember, and then the last data point is December 20th, 2015. Okay. Now, if you want, you can copy this to clipboard and take it and use it somewhere else. So here it gives you some information about how good the forecast is. So the quality of forecast is okay, not great, but it's all right. So it has 3 levels, I think: low, okay, and good. I think 3 levels. Okay. So what so that's your described forecast. So let's look at forecast options, right? Forecast options. So forecast length is automatic. So on a weekly basis, it is 14 weeks, right? If we change it to month, oh, see, it says no forecast because I accidentally changed it to blue pill. So it's not giving me forecast. I should have changed it to green pill. Then forecast options, so automatic for the next 11 months. So these are default values. Okay, I'm going to change it back to week. Forecast options. Now, if you want a specific number of weeks, so you can select that. So you say you want 4 weeks, or you can have until whatever. Okay, so you have that option of how long out you want to go for forecasting. Okay, then the source of data is automatically generated based on the granularity of the visualization. Right now, it is the weekly data is the time interval. Okay, and by default, Tableau ignores the last week of data, and then the reason for that is that if this is an active production visualization, so data is coming in from your data source, SQL or whatever, and keeps updating. So the last week of data, it's very likely that you're probably partially into the week, or you don't have the full data for the last week in the data series. So that's why the default is ignore the last 1 week. Yeah.
So if you're forecasting, we're just using 2014 and 2015. Does it get more accurate if you use all past records, or does it already take that into account?
Possible, yeah. It depends on, okay, it's a forecasting topic. So how far back you want to go. The farther you go back in history, the less relevant that data is, right? So there are methodologies that would weight the more recent data highly compared to the old one. But you are right, we can let's talk about that just 1 second. Okay, and so you can change this to 0. In this particular case, this is a static data, it's not an active data set, so you don't really have any reason to ignore the most recent data. You can zero it out. Okay, and here is where you can select models. Okay, so right now it is set to automatic. So automatic means okay, let's change that to custom. Then that tells you the different methodologies that Tableau will try. So you will have for forecasting, so you have time series values have typically 4 components. How many of you have had forecasting here? Are you on? Yeah, okay, there is no forecasting is in spring. Okay, so you will probably, I think Dr. Mohammed is teaching that. Now, a time series has 4 components. Okay, there is trend. Okay, trend is long-term gradual change in data. So it can be any data, sales data, temperature data, but of course for us, sales data is what we are interested in. So that's your trend, long-term gradual increase or decrease, hopefully not decrease, gradual increase. So that's your trend. The second component is seasonality. Seasonality is seasonal changes that repeat in a predictable fashion, right? So if you have quarterly seasons, you have 4 seasons in a year that repeats itself year after year after year. Okay, so we are all familiar with that. So it need not be quarterly seasons, it can be daily seasons or repeating over every week. So weekday effect. Or it could be within a day, there may be hourly seasons. So season can be, seasonality is defined as seasonal changes that repeat over a predictable period of time. Okay. The third component is called cyclical. Cyclical is long-term ups and downs as opposed to trend. So trend is gradual change over a long period of time which keeps going up and up and up, whereas cyclical changes are more like seasonal, except that it is not predictable. And typically cyclical changes occur due to economic conditions like recession or growth phase. So there may be ups and downs, which are the periodicity of ups and downs is not predictable as opposed to seasonal. In seasonal, that there will be, if there is a quarterly seasonality, then one quarter of one year, the same quarter in the next year would be similar. Okay, that predictability is not present in cyclical. And then the fourth component is random. So there is these three are the major components, but sales is affected not just by these three factors, but there are lots and lots of other factors that we don't have the means of following. So that's your random effect. So these are the four components that are present in time series data. Of these, trend and seasonality are the ones that we can mathematically analyze and use for forecasting. And we have some options there, and based on the options that you select, there are methodologies available. Okay, so all of those methods are discussed in your forecasting class. So we're not going to get into how the forecasts are actually calculated, but you have the choice of selecting. Okay. Now remember, you don't have to make any of these selections if you choose automatic. Okay, so there is we changed it to custom. If you have forecasting method as automatic, then Tableau will automatically go through all these different combinations. So if you have this as automatic, okay, so automatically selects an exponential smoothing model for the data that may have trend or may have seasonal patterns. So all of those different combinations, okay, Tableau will go through and select the best one out of those. But if you want to tell Tableau, okay, so this is what I want you to look at, then you can select that. So automatic without seasonality. Okay, so if you think that seasonal effect should not be looked at, you can select that. Or you can say, either additive or multiplicative for trend and seasonal. Additive and multiplicative means the trend effect in an additive model, the trend effect is added after all other, when you use all other factors to predict the forecast, the trend effect is added to the value. Multiplication will be, the trend effect will not be a quantity, it will be a factor. So like 90% or 110%, then you multiply that number with the absolute value. And same here in seasonal. Additive means the seasonal effect is an actual value that is added, whereas multiplicative means it is a factor that is used to multiply the value for the seasonal adjustment. If it's a high season and if the factor is like 1.5, then whatever forecast was made without adjustment is multiplied by 1.5 to arrive at the seasonally adjusted forecast. So these are the options that you have, and under each of these options there are many models possible. Okay, and Tableau will go through all of those different models and select the best. And it turns out here, because of all the variations, the best model is just the average, one value for all. So let's see whether if we select all, you still have the same. So estimate is 74,000. So if you unclick those, so it still get the same value as forecast. So now if you look at only the 2015 data, your forecast is actually a little bit higher, 75K. Okay. So in summary, forecast is only for green pill, and the forecast, the time granularity of the visualization will be used for what to forecast in the future, weekly forecast or monthly forecast or quarterly forecast. You can control how many weeks or how many months you want Tableau to forecast. It can be automatic, or you can set the time limit. And again, models, there are many models including trend and seasonality. You can leave it to Tableau to figure out, or you can specify. Then once it is done, you can always describe the forecast, and it will tell you, what the properties of the forecast that it has found.